welcome to Irresistible. You Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I didn't think it was recording. I'm Karen Seltz. I am your host. I am so excited to be with you today. If you are new to me, there are really just three things that you need to know. The first one is that I have conquered depression, addiction, anxiety, and I share the depths of all of that hard stuff to give other people permission to make it okay, to normalize it, and to show you that that is a current condition. If you happen to be there, that there is a solution. So hang in there, and there is a way. There is a way to get better. The second thing is that it is my mission on this planet to support coaches and online business owners to use their voices and share their gifts with the world. And I do that by teaching them how to show up authentically with authority on video. The third thing is that I consider my greatest superpower to be that of a divine mirror. And what I mean by that is I'm able to reflect back people's greatness to them until they get it for themselves. And they finally say, yes, I see it. I see what you see. And it's not me, it is the divine through me. So tonight, I want to talk about becoming the ideal version of yourself. And the reason I chose this topic is I remember for years, I used to struggle with this identity piece. I would read my spiritual books and I would say that I was that, whatever I was reading, whatever my ideal was, I would do my best to show up that way in the world, or at least to talk like I was that way. So my actions did not match my words. And it created this dissonance. Like I wasn't being authentic, but I truly wanted to be that. I wanted to be this version of myself, but I wasn't quite there. And I didn't know how to bridge that gap. So every time I would fall short of this high ideal, I would beat the crap out of myself. And I would think that I was a bad person or that I was never going to get it. So if you've been in that place where you have this ideal and you're not quite hitting it, whether it's in parenting or business or as a general human being, I get it. And I want to take you through a few steps to bridging that gap and creating lasting change. So if you're down for that, keep watching. So the other day I was at yoga class, and every time I go to hot yoga, which is many times a week, I usually go 4 or 5 times a week, I practice the splits. I stretch for 10 or 15 minutes before class every single time. And many times a week, people will come up to me and say this, man, I wish I could do that. You're so flexible. And the other day I said to somebody, what have you noticed about me? That there's a reason I'm flexible. And that is that I practice this every single time I come to class. And I actually said, this is kind of rude. I said, I've never seen you practice it. Yes, I'm kind of that way sometimes. Like truly though. But every single time someone says that to me, I have never once seen them practice this. And I go to hot yoga. So it's the perfect environment to practice stretching, right? Your muscles are warm. They're wanting to stretch. But I was thinking about that. Like how many people say, gosh, I really want to be good at noticing when I do this certain behavior, but they don't practice catching themselves. They don't tell their subconscious mind, hey, tap me on the shoulder when I do that thing. Let me know I'm doing it. Help me to not go unconscious. Or, I teach people how to show up on video. And one of the biggest mistakes there people make is thinking they have to have something memorized. That's a big one. So they'll be like reading a script. You see their head moving or their eyes. I can't do it. Maybe if I put a script up, I could do it. But what happens is you're missing who they are as a person. And it doesn't matter what they say if the energy isn't behind it, if you don't feel them as a person. Because you watching this, you're smart. You know if people are blowing smoke up your butt. You weren't born yesterday. So and you want to connect with people that you feel aligned to. So when I teach people how to show up on video, how to be experts on video, it's not about saying the right things. It's about dropping into your heart and just trusting that you know enough. Most of the people that come to me have taken all the classes. They have like volumes of knowledge, like they've taken all the courses, and they get stuck in that hiding, like, okay, I don't know enough yet. Oh, I just saw this other person who was talking about this topic and I don't know that one. So maybe I better go learn it before I can show up. Well, that is a survival tactic. That is the ego trying to keep you safe. So if you look at somebody who is kind of living the life you want to live, or they're being who you want to be, or they handle adversity, or they handle conflict in a way that you admire, or someone who's successful in business, whatever it is, someone who's a successful mother, whatever the identity is you're aspiring to, what are their behaviors? And before behaviors comes something called beliefs. So we can't behave in a way that is not in congruence with our beliefs for very long. We can fake it for a little while, but it's not sustainable. Like when we're under pressure, who we really are, who we've been practicing being, let me rephrase that. It's not who you really are. It's who you've been practicing being. So if you don't get your way and you practice blowing up and exploding, and then people are like, okay, I'll do it. Okay. You've practiced that. You've gotten that down. And if you want to show up a different way, you get to practice something else. And so if you look at the beliefs, that is what is going to determine your behaviors, right? Now, the way to change those is to make a decision with such firm amplitude that you will always remember it. And I love this. My business coach, James Wedmore, just broke this word down for us. And I've never heard this, but think about decide. The word side, think about genocide, means to kill off. So when you decide, you are cutting off or killing off access to all other options. You're laser focused on one. This is the one thing that I want. I am deciding, boom, it is done. And another way of phrasing that is you're closing all the back doors. When you have a door open even 1%, which means you have a plan B, you're like, if this doesn't work, I'll just go back to this or whatever. Then you're 99% committed, which is like being 99% pregnant, right? Like it's just not possible. You're either pregnant or you're not. You're either committed or you're not. My leadership coach or one of the trainers used to say, 99%, no, 100% is easy. 100% is easy. 99% is a bitch, because that 1% is like, it's like you're air conditioning your house and it's 120 degrees out and you have a door 1% open. All that air conditioning is just coming out and the hot air is coming in. So when you have a back door open, your energy is going out that door. It's just going that way. It's focused behind you, or, on the past, what happened in the past, or what happens if, which is anxiety. Like, if this doesn't work, what am I going to do? When you start looking at all your other options. One moment, I need a drink. It's only water, I swear. So when you make a decision and you make a commitment, and a commitment means that no matter what, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do my best. And it doesn't have to be to creating a certain result. That puts a lot of pressure on us, especially if you have a certain type of human design, like a non-specific generator. If you put pressure on yourself, it is really difficult to keep your energy, your frequency high. So your commitment gets to be to ways of being. How am I going to show up? Who am I going to be, no matter what happens, regardless of the conditions in my environment? Who am I going to be? So for me, I will choose to be loving. I will choose to be open-hearted. I will choose to be curious. I will choose to be fun and passionate and playful. I will choose to be strong. I mean, there's a lot of things. Courageous is a big one that I often choose again and again, because I get to push myself. So if you think about successful people, that success leaves clues. So successful people behave a certain way, which is based on the way they think, which is based on a lot of times the way they feel. Thinking and feeling, they're so intertwined. So if you think a thought, it produces emotions that correspond to that thought, and vice versa. If you feel an emotion, your mind will fabricate thoughts that correspond to that emotion. So one of the biggest ways you can support yourself into changing a behavior or a way of being that you no longer want is to tell your subconscious mind what to be aware of, which means you get to be aware of what you're doing when you go unconscious. So you get to start bringing up those behaviors and say, oh my gosh, I just noticed that I was snippy with my neighbor, or I don't know, whatever, your child or your spouse. And I don't want to do that anymore. So you start noticing what your patterns are, and do your best to do it from an outside perspective, like you're a scientific observer. I heard this, the woman I had on last week, Donna Lynn Riley, she said on her podcast when I was on it, she said when she watches herself on video, she has this thing that she does, and she refers to herself in the third person. Oh, she just did this habit, or she just did this. And that way, there's some separation. It's not so personal, and it doesn't mean anything about her. It's just a behavior. It's just something she's noticing. And when you can do that, it takes so much pressure off. And you can just be, you can let your hair down and you can have fun. You can say, oh, that's really interesting. I see that. When she doesn't know what to say, she says, a lot. Or when she's not trusting her heart, she looks up and to the left a lot. Just notice your patterns. I'm talking about video as an example, but when you're in a stressful situation, say a traffic jam, or when you don't get your way, you ask for something and somebody doesn't do it, or they don't do it in the time you want. Just notice, what are your expectations and what do you do when those aren't met? And start to notice your patterns. And when you notice them, you can start to change them, but you've got to be aware of them first. And this is the painful part, because when you first start telling your subconscious mind to alert you to it, you're going to notice how often you do these things. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, do I do anything but that? So you can also, you get to balance it with the positive. Now, right? So show me what I'm doing, the thing I don't want to do. And here's what I do want. I want to know that I matter. I want to know that what I do makes a difference. I want to know that I'm loving and that I'm kind. So give me opportunities to practice those and show me when I'm doing it so I can celebrate those. Because a lot of times we do those things, but we don't notice them. We don't take time to celebrate them. We think, oh, everybody does that, or that's just what's expected of me. I'm doing the minimum. But that's not true. And what you focus on expands. So when you start focusing on all the good that you are, all the good that you do in the world, how you make a difference for yourself and how you make a difference for other people, that will expand, and that will permeate your consciousness. And that will be the rocket fuel to helping you become that version of you that you really want to be, because that version is already there. If you want it, oh, excuse me, I'm going to mute. Hairball. I always say that because I have a cat. If you want to be something or to do something, to have something, that desire was put there by the divine. You already have everything you need within to accomplish it, or the desire wouldn't have been put there. The divine is not mean. The divine is like giving you a roadmap, like this is what is meant for you. So if you desire something, follow that thread and just know, just trust that when the time comes, you're going to be shown step by step by step, and just start taking little tiny steps in that direction, and you will get there so much faster. What I used to do, and what I see a lot of people who get stuck do, is question themselves, doubt their intuition, say, well, I don't know exactly what to do, and I don't want to do the wrong thing, so I'll do nothing. Well, nothing is the only wrong thing you can do. I don't believe in wrong, but I'm just saying, like, it keeps you stuck. It kept me stuck for so long, and I don't want that for you. So just pick one thing and say, I'm going to do one thing today, one thing outside of my comfort zone that is toward that version of me. So maybe you want to be magnetic. You want people to notice, like when you walk into a room, you want people to come up to you and start talking to you. Well, one thing you can do toward that is to start talking to people, start smiling, be approachable. Go drop into your heart before you go someplace and say, show me how to be open, how to open my heart and to trust and to just be love. And when you have that intention, people will feel it. The magnitude of the heart energy center, it's so big. And when we're thinking positive thoughts and when we're in that space of love and acceptance, it is inviting to other people. They feel it. And that field is so expansive. It's so much bigger. And think about your body. When you're thinking a positive thought or when you're happy and joyful, it's open, it's expansive. And when you think a negative thought, it's like the muscles tighten. A lot of times people will get smaller. They're punching down, like they physically become smaller because they're so contracted. Well, the same thing happens with your energy field. It also sucks energy from everybody around you when you're in a negative space. They all feel it. So set the intention of being the love or being the change you wish to see in the world, being the peace, being the joy, being whatever it is that you're here to be, and just practice it. Okay, today I'm going to practice being love. And what that means to me is accepting people, not judging them. When I catch myself judging them, I ask myself, okay, how is that me? So when I'm practicing, I'm not saying I do this all the time. I'm far from perfect. If you've seen this show before, you know that. Plus, I'm a human. But I'm saying, like, you practice. Okay, today I'm going to practice being love. So when I catch myself judging someone, I'm going to ask myself, how is that me? What part of me needs love and acceptance right now? Because if I'm judging someone, there's a part of me that doesn't feel lovable. The part of me that is whatever characteristic I'm noticing out in the world. And I'm gonna give you another example today. Today I was at Starbucks and I was sitting in a chair, like a leather chair that had a table and then another chair next to it. And several people came and went in the other chair. My drink was on the table. And this big man, he was very tall, came and I don't know if his hands were full. That's what I'm guessing because I was working. But he started moving the chair away from me with his foot. And it was very loud. And then he took the table and moved it away from me toward him. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And then a woman was struggling to open the door and he was right next to the door. She had a baby carriage and she was pushing a baby and she was like trying to get the door open and get the, so I got up and, opened the door for her. And apparently he noticed because when the guy left, he's told me this. But then when he left, he started like moving things again with his feet and he dropped his keys and he was mad. And so here's what I say, because I'm practicing being love. I'm like, wow, do you play soccer? You're so good with your feet. And he like kind of laughed and went on, but he was really mad before that. So my decision to not judge him, to not see him as like lacking something or taking something from me because, his face he looked kind of frustrated. But the guy behind or next to me, when he left, he's like, my gosh, what kind of adult behaves that way? And I'm like, he's like, your perspective was so refreshing. But I kept my state. I stayed in my heart and I stayed loving regardless of what was going on around me. So I'm celebrating that because I don't do it all the time. So the more I celebrate that, the more I'm telling my subconscious mind, bring me more of this. I want to be loving more often. Let me be the love I want to see in the world. Like what I said to the guy who was talking about him was, you don't know what people are going through. You don't know what kind of day he's having. You just don't. And if I can brighten his day even a tiny bit, I'm going to do it. That's what I'm here for. Like I'm here to be the ray of sunshine in people's lives. They have enough negativity, like the way that we talk to ourselves and the way that we beat the crap out of ourselves for not being perfect. I am not going to do that to someone else. I'm not. I'm going to reflect back to them their beauty, their greatness, their strengths, their gifts. And that's a choice that I make. And that's a commitment that I make every single day, sometimes many times a day, because I forget. My teenage daughters say to me, Mom, you're such a good forgetter. I'm like, that is the human condition, right? We all forget the truth of who we are. And we are here to remind one another. So when I can reflect that back to someone, that they are nothing but love, no matter what they're experiencing, no matter how they're behaving, they are loved. They are loved. They are lovable forever, no matter what. Then I feel good about myself and my field expands and I can be loving to more people, including myself, because of course it has to start with me. So when you are wanting to change something, you first get to become aware of what it is you're doing that's not in alignment with whatever that is that you're, whoever that is you're becoming. And be gentle with yourself. When you first start noticing, like I said, you're going to see it so much. And that's the most painful part of this whole process. And that is the point at which most people give up and they go back to the known because it's easier, it's safer, and they don't have to see it. They can stay in denial and not see whatever they're judging. So then once you start noticing it, there comes a point where you notice it right before you act a certain way. Like you might start to think something and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a familiar thought. I know where that's leading. And you cut it off right at the thought level. And then there comes a time when you start to think it, and you might just have like this little emotion or this little twinge in your body. You're like, oh, that feels like judgment. Oh, interesting. Let's see what's good about the situation. Because you can find something good about anybody. Because everyone's a reflection of you anyway. And we all have every single characteristic within. So when you approach it that way, then you get closer and closer and your behavior slowly starts to shift. And when you are noticing every single thing that you do well and you're celebrating, oh my gosh, I didn't judge that man. I was loving, I stayed in my heart. Or I didn't yell at my kid. I really wanted to. I knew I was right. I knew he was stupid, whatever it was. I have teenage girls, so you know how that goes, maybe. So whenever you don't do the thing, you celebrate. And whenever you do something loving or something desired, like I was courageous. I pressed the go live button today. I was scared, but I did it with no script. You celebrate. And you really start to look at your wins. And when you do that every single day, your subconscious mind is going to say, oh my gosh, did you see that? You just held the door for a stranger. And did you see the look in their eyes? And you're going to celebrate it. You're going to like take that little piece with you. And believe it or not, you will become so much more positive and so much more happy and so much more grateful. That's a big thing. I mean, there's so much talk about gratitude and gratitude practices, but how many people actually do them? So when you start focusing on your wins, it's another way of being grateful for who you are. And we all need more of that. I mean, who doesn't? So do those things. And if you have any desire whatsoever to share your gifts with the world, if you're a coach or an online business owner, I have a free 5-day challenge coming up next week that is going to be all about sharing who you are, sharing from the heart and learning how to trust yourself, your connection to the divine, and tapping in to ways of calming your nervous system and focusing out. Because, when I get nervous, guess who I'm thinking about? Me, thinking about, do I look good? Do I sound good? Do I sound stupid? Whatever. It's all internally focused. So I teach people how to focus out on who they are here to serve. And the nerves, they calm way down. And the more you practice, just like the splits, the better you get at it, the easier it gets to where you can just start talking and just trust that something you're saying is going to impact at least one person. So if you're interested in that, I will link the registration page in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm Karen Seltz. I'll see you right here next week. Bye.